Welcome to Daily Devo. I'm Pat. Today we're going to talk about the fickleness of humanity. How quickly things can change. At one time or another, we have all experienced the truth of that statement. Over the next few weeks leading up to Easter, we're going to dig into some of the sayings and events of Jesus during his last week. One thing you're going to notice is how quickly things change, how fast the public environment will shift, and how rapidly people will swing their opinions and beliefs. Take, for example, what is often referred to as Jesus' triumphal entry. It took place on the Sunday that would begin his last week, meaning it's a matter of days before he would be nailed to that Roman tool of torture that we call a cross. And it had been a short time after he had raised Lazarus from the dead in a nearby town. So on this day, he would be riding into Jerusalem with huge crowds. Here's how Luke describes it in Luke chapter 19, verses 36 to 38. As he rode along, the crowd spread out their garments on the road ahead of him. When he reached the place where the road started down the Mount of Olives, all of his followers began to shout and sing as they walked along, praising God for all the wonderful miracles they had seen. Blessings on the King who comes in the name of the Lord, peace in heaven and glory in the highest heavens. And so imagine the scene, these massive crowds screaming and yelling and cheering and saying, Hosanna, son of David, as some of the other gospel writers write. However, there is a big but. Skip down to verse 41 as Jesus is writing in this. These crowds are cheering. It says in verse 41 of Luke 19, but as he came closer to Jerusalem and saw the city ahead, he began to weep. How I wish today that you of all people would understand the way to peace, but now it is too late and peace is hidden from your eyes. Before long, your enemies will build ramparts against your walls and encircle you and close in on you from every side. They will crush you into the ground and your children with you. Your enemies will not leave a single stone in place because you did not recognize it when God visited you. He's prophesying about an event that's going to take place about 35 years later, the destruction of Jerusalem. What in the world is going on here? How does Jesus go from this high moment of having this crowd worshiping him and identifying him as the Messiah to weeping over their unbelief? The setting is important to grasp. Word had been spreading about this Jesus for years, and now, just days before he had raised this man named Lazarus from the dead. Many in this crowd were eyewitnesses or had talked to eyewitnesses, so now they're ecstatic that they are watching their long-awaited Messiah ride into Jerusalem. But many of these same people will be among the crowd in a few short days screaming, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" It's almost too much to grasp. It's almost too much to believe that these people could be so erratic as to cry Hosanna one day and crucify him a few days later. It's difficult to imagine how fickle these people could be until I pause and look at my own life and recognize how fickle I can be at times. Until I realize how at times I'm all in with Jesus when everything is going my way and then shaking a fist at the heavens when things take a turn for the worse. The truth is we can be extremely fickle as humans, even in our journey of faith. The story of Jesus' entry into Jerusalem at the beginning of his last week should be a vivid and sobering reminder to be on alert, that we don't emulate their fickleness, their inconsistency. When it comes to where you and I stand with Jesus, let's say what we mean and mean what we say.